time to unclamp the micarta, which I've got here. It's cured for a little over 24 hours. So let's see what we end up with here. And then just pry it apart, sometimes a little easier than others. Here's the knife that we're going to be putting it on. I've got the blade covered. This is a blank that I purchased, not one that I made. I'll just use the handle of that to pry everything apart. And here is the slab of micarta. Doesn't look like much yet, but there's more to come. I've got the micarta taken out of the clamps. What I've done is I've marked the ends here that I'm going to cut off with a scrolling saw. You can use anything you have available. This is just what I have. A bandsaw would probably work a little better. I've marked the ends just to get that slop on the end, and then a mark halfway down where I'll just cut it in half, and these will be the two parts of either side of my handle or my scales. One thing I noticed when I took off the wax paper, a piece of wax paper had gotten underneath the top layer here, so it didn't adhere. That's okay. This will be the side that I attach to the knife, and this will all be sanded away, so it's not going to matter. We'll go ahead and cut off these ends right now and see where we go from there. After I've got the slab cut, and I've got the two pieces, and that'll be either side of the knife handle. But I do want to make those a little flatter. My cut isn't exact on there. Again, a bandsaw or a table saw would give you a straighter cut. Mine isn't, but these are the tools that I have, so these are the tools that I use. For my sanding on my micarta, I've got a big grinder or a belt sander, but I like to use this little one from Harbor Freight. It's a very inexpensive one. Comes with a 1" by 30" belt and then a pad on the side, which is handy for doing flat grinds as well. What I do to flatten these up, I actually just turn it on its side, a little bit easier to work with, and then turn it on and grind. Now that my ends are even, I want to mark the profile of the knife and cut it out again with the scrolling saw over there. Okay, I'm ready to cut out the profile of the handle material. I should add that working with the power tools, make sure you wear a dust mask because you get a lot of dust from the fiberglass resin, eye protection, and now that I'm going to be working closer to the material, I wear gloves. The profile of the handle has been traced onto the two different slabs, and I'll cut them out. I leave a lot of slop because I'm not precise when I do it, and it's easy enough to sand off when you're done. If you cut off too much, you've just wasted a pair. So we'll go ahead and get started here and shape the micarta. Time to attach the scales that I've got roughed out, or the handle material that I've got roughed out. Again, it still doesn't look like much. You can see that I've left a lot of excess material. It's just the way I prefer to do it. Some people are better at detail work than I am, and they will be attached to the knife like that. And the way I do it is I attach the material, then I come back after it sets up, drill the holes, then I'll attach the second side, drill the holes for the pins and the lanyard and then glue the pins in. So let's get started. I use Gorilla Glue. It works better for me than the epoxies. I like it better. It's not as brittle, and it's a lot less expensive. The glue will expand. It does not take a lot. You just put it on thinly, spread it on the knife. I cover the whole thing. It'll expand like that foam, and it'll just sand right off. The expanded part is not difficult to get rid of. As you can see, I'm wearing gloves again because I am not one of the neatest workers around. Pretty simple. Just make sure that I've got the whole knife profiled. I've got the blade marked off with my masking tape so I don't mess it up, and we should be good. I just clamp that in place. It says let it sit for 2 hours. Probably in about an hour I'll drill the holes and then come back and attach the other side. Alright, I've taken the clamps off and I've drilled through this side to mark my pinholes, come out the other side, and now it's time to attach the handle on the other side. And using the same Gorilla Glue. Again, I might not have explained it well on the first side, but you wet the hard material, not a lot, just a little bit, and then the side that's going to go toward the knife, wet that, put the glue on, and then press. Just make sure I've got all the metal covered. Lined up the way I wanted it. And then once again clamp it. Just double check it. Everything looks good. We'll let that sit for about another hour, hour and a half, and then I will go ahead and do the pins. For the pins I'm going to use copper grounding wire. What I'm going to use for pinning material today is copper grounding wire. I like to use copper. I just think it looks good with the dark blue. You can find it when they're stripping out a house or rewiring a house. Just go ask the electrician for a little bit. They'll usually cut off a foot or two and give it to you. If not, it's not very expensive to buy. Now the wire is very smooth, so you want to rough that up a little bit. You can do that by hand. You can take some sandpaper and do it by hand and rough it up. I prefer another method. I straighten out the wire in a vise, because as you can see it's very soft, it bends very easily. And then I'll put it in a drill, and then what I do is just hold the sandpaper on it. Now it's roughed up. That's all you need to do. It's a lot faster, simpler to do. What I've done is I've already roughed up 3 pieces and cut them, my 3 pins here, and they're ready to go into the knife. With any luck at all, I drilled the right size hole and everything will fit. Put some glue in the hole. It doesn't take a lot again, this stuff expands. I'm starting in the middle hole for no particular reason other than that's the one I started at. And take a pin, make sure there's no big burrs on it so it'll fit through there. It's going to be a snug fit. And then just tap it through. Okay. Come out the other side, and the glue's been pushed with it. Pins come out a little bit, but they grind off pretty easy because the material, the copper, is very soft. Do the same thing for the other 2 holes.